Hey guys, again with a bigger picture thing here, talking about how, with the illusion of history, how technology kind of shapes our perspective on history. And this is coming from a 1980s perspective, growing up in the 80s, and even then, when you would look back on black and white videos like from the 60s, from John F. Kennedy speaking, it would be black and white and grainy, and even after 60 years it was kind of dated. So you had that perception that even recent history was kind of old. And even like the popular music from shows or movies, in the 40s it was pre-rock and pre-jazz, so that sounded very kind of antiquated and ancient. And so you had that perception based on the rapid change in styles and technology that history was longer than it seemed. And of course, overall, you had the initiation of movies and videos, just 100 years ago, photography, just 150 years ago. So all these increases in technology have kind of twisted our perception that things are a lot more distant, or a lot older than they appear. And what are some of these other illusions that we get of modernity from our time? Well, we've got computers that have escalated things, just the change from pre-electric to an electric world. Obviously, space exploration has changed our perspective. And then advances in biology like antibiotics, genetic engineering, makes us think that we are much more modern or much more distant from the past, back when the images were made out of painting or sculpture, or the styles in clothing or so forth, and transportation from horse to cars, etc. has changed rapidly. But really, the history is not that long ago for our civilization. And you get the historical repetition that comes in cycles based on our understanding or forgetting of history. Like right now, we're closer to the dangers of nuclear war, such as the time in the 60s of Cuban Missile Crisis, than we were in the 80s. In the 80s, we kind of had tucked away, at least for a while, the threat of nuclear annihilation that we're kind of dangerously discussing again these days. And also, we've let capitalism become unleashed again, so that we're kind of back in the robber baron model of capitalism from the late 19th century, where the corporate and concentrated power of the oligarchs is so strong and unchecked now that because of our kind of worship of an unfettered capitalism, we've arrived again this situation of imbalance and inequity in our society. And also, it's because we kind of judge ourselves in short time scales, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the noughts, and so forth. We kind of make them distinct as if they were really so far apart. Or even judging each other in centuries. We're only recently aware in the last 500 years or less that collectively, that we understood that this human species live on different continents. We've discovered DNA. We recently discovered nuclear power. We recently discovered that the universe is expanding. So there's all these major discoveries that kind of make us feel more modern, but yet in the big picture we've only just begun to grapple and understand these in our place, and we're still dealing with our own kind of naive ideas of God and superstitions and so forth that haven't allowed us fully to understand these deeper discoveries and further discoveries to come. So because of that, we still have these myths that somehow, the illusion of history, that we're somehow at the end of history, or this apocalyptic bias that we have, or basically a fascination with ourselves over and our perceived racial differences, instead of understanding that we're all here on this planet together, have been forever, and will be into the foreseeable future. So with that, let's keep on try to preserve what we have, try to improve and make the world a better place. Peace, guys. Clumsy Dad.